Okay, I think we should be in business. So wishing you a very, very happy, holy and a happy Women's Day. I hope you all had a chance to celebrate these days. Here in CBB, we had a blast yesterday. I mean, all the kids and everyone throwing colors and, dancing to flash mob and everything. So it was really colorful. So we get started. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Rudavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshinim Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Kulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamrutaduhe Namaha Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapada Kramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidhusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So we are coming almost to the end of the 6th chapter. So far we have seen Lord Krishna has given various aspects of meditation, but primarily I think what we're discussing here is the Vedantic meditation, and you see that really elaborately being discussed in here. We also talked about the obstacles of meditation. And finally, in last week, we talked about Abhyasa and Vairagyam. Without Vairagyam or detachment, this is not, we are not talking about physical detachment, but we are talking about mental detachment, which is born out of understanding what really detachment really means. So without this detachment, it is impossible to meditate. So that is the ultimate bottom line here. So if I really need to have very good, clear meditation, I need to start understanding what Vairagya means, what detachment means. Only then I can really assimilate everything that has what I have studied and I'm able to experience in meditation. So that is the ultimate meditation that we are talking about. And in here, again, I saw this beautiful quote about holy, which is Swami Chinmayananda's page. I got this, which is that Vairagyam or detachment can happen only when I recognize that objects, and here I want to also add not just objects, but also people and also situations. So we are talking about snow not being so much in Michigan now. So that is only a situation. Snow may come, snow may go, but I need to have detachment from the snow, you know. So the quote says, let us burn our dependency on objects this holy and fill our lives with the color of contentment. I thought it was so appropriate to again our chapter on meditation. One second, I'll close the door now. So that's the message where you can really connect this passion to so many things. And you know that before Holi, the day before, you call this Holi Dahanam, I think. I'm sure the North Indians in our group, especially Meenu and others, will be able to explain this better than I do. But the idea is to really bundle up everything which is unnecessary and burn it. I don't know, Meenu, would you like to say a little bit about, in context of detachment or in context of the Holi Dahanam, how this is celebrated?
It's just the story of Prahlada, like Holika was sitting with Prahlada. So we signified that, like Holika is sitting, so all the bad thoughts, everything, all vasanas are getting burned. So in that and olden times, my mom used to make gurka roti, tie dhaga on it, like a thread on it, and burn it. And then the amazing thing was gurka roti will be burned and cooked. The thread won't burn, so signifying that Holika got burned and Prahlad was saved, something like that they would do.
Okay.
So just the significance of Holika day before.
Right.
So basically all the negativity, all the vasanas, everything should go away.
Very nice. Thank you for that explanation. And from a philosophical sense too, you know, since I'm now so much into Indian knowledge systems, I'm seeing the value of the Indian knowledge systems percolate through every actions, every traditions, every festival that we celebrate. In and through that, the mindset of IKS, Indian knowledge system, is shown here. And in here again, going back to, let's not spend our time on paltry things. Let's just burn that away and focus on a higher goal, you know. So that's literally where we are with this 6th chapter, and where we are trying to go, that, you know, we are so again habituated to looking at the small joys in our life, whether it is job, whether it's money, whether it's a house, whether it's relationship. The idea is not that we should not have all that, but to be able to have a detached view of the whole thing. So anyone wanting to give any reflection on any shloka? Okay, so we can think about it for next week.
It was actually my turn.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Amlan.
Okay, I thought because of internet we lost so much time. I think I can escape today. So how do I share my screen?
Let's see, I'll have to stop sharing, and yes, go ahead.
Share. Host visible participants screen sharing.
Oh, all participants. Yeah, perfect. Now you can do it.
Okay, this one. Yeah. Can you see?
Yes, Bandhuratma-atmanastasya yenatma-atmana jitaha.
Shloka number 6. Bandhuratma-atmanastasya yenatma atmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve bharte tatmaiva shatruvat. Here my screen is getting covered by pictures. Okay, I minimize that.
Okay.
So the meaning is explained here is the self is the friend of the self for him who has conquered himself by the self. Here self is basically, I think, referring to mind, but to the unconquered self, the self stands in the position of enemy. Basically, controlled mind is friend and uncontrolled mind is enemy. So this sloka I like, and I put some notes. So here I put a reference of Kathopanishad. Here in the left picture, the chariot. I think this is a famous picture explain about how all the relations. So in the front we see the horses. Horses are basically referred as senses of all the senses basically. And then horses are tied with the rein. Rein is referred as mind, and the charioteer, who is basically intelligence, and behind that the passenger, the Atman or the soul, and the chariot is the body. So how this explained is if mind is not controlled, then naturally it is not going to control the senses, and senses are naturally try to go whatever direction it sees. There is no focus; it can go any direction. So it is a kind of, it will go towards the world basically. So mind try to control the senses or the horses, but before that mind has to be controlled. So who will be controlling the mind? The intelligence has to control the mind. So that's basically the ideal situation. But in our regular people like us, it is other way around. We are basically controlled by the senses, and senses are controlling the mind, and mind is controlling the intelligence, and whole mess, and all the bondages are coming because of all this. So here I put two notes. The control mind give direction to the horses and senses, and it is friendly in that case. Uncontrolled mind cannot give direction to the horses or senses. Senses go arbitrarily in all direction. Then it is enemy. It is basically going to tie more with the world. Then another reference is Amrita Bindu Upanishad we read sometime back. Manushanam karana bandha mokshaye bandhaya vishaya sattam muktam nirvishayam smritam. So the bondage, the cause of bondage and freedom for human being. So here it's mentioned that mind is the cause of bondage and freedom for human being. Mind attached to the senses, sense objects, creates the bondage, and devoid of desires or desire for objects considered as free. Like mind is hollow here, no desire, then you are going for a meditation and realizing yourself. An uncontrolled mind full of desire, all kind of desire in the mind, and all the time trying to enjoy in this world in different ways, and getting entangled more and more and getting into more bondages. Yeah. So that's all I just wanted to share.
Very beautiful. Very nice.
Thank you.
Do you want to unshare?
Stop sharing, right?
Yes, stop sharing. Yes. Very nice. Very nice. I love the way you connected chapter 6, the shloka number 6, I think, to Amrita Bindu Upanishad and Kathopanishad, and connected it to the horses and the connection to the senses, and then coming to explain about the mind with the two ways. Beautiful. Really nice, Amlan.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you, Amlan. Very
how
nice.
Thank you.
Oh, very nice.
a picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say. Any other comments for Amlan? Great. So let's get back to mine. Second. So coming back to, We will skip chanting the shlokas. We'll go straight to. So we were essentially explaining about the mind, and then we talked about the Arjuna questioning from the shlokas. Tarifa, we just briefly review that because it's a nice prelude to the next shlokas we're coming to, and hoping that we will be able to complete up to 43 today. That's my ambition. So we have Lord Krishna now answering Arjuna's question about the restlessness of the mind. So last week, we had a little bit of discussion on this diagram, which I just added a couple more points because I wanted to explain about how Abhyasa and Vairagya go together, because we started with the topic on dispassion or Vairagyam. So here, we have Arjuna being told by Krishna that there are only two simple ways in which you can actually control the mind. The senses, like how Amlan had pointed out, and that is by this Abhyasa and Vairagya. Now, last time we talked a little bit about it, but I just wanted to bring up one more example here, but also to say that what is really Abhyasa? Abhyasa is nothing but discipline. But if we say discipline, immediately the thought comes to a mind that, somebody is, there with a stick, imposing discipline. Again, because I'm in a university setup, I'm bringing this example, about discipline being that way. But actually, discipline are really this factors here, which is Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyasa Yoga. I'm tying it to the previous chapters in 5th chapter, 4th chapter, and then 3rd chapter. Those are all the disciplines that was talked about, where Karma Yoga gives us an opportunity to clear our mind of any kind of me kind of desires, is only for me, that part is Karma Yoga. But then Karma Sannyas Yoga is one step even further, where not only do you look at it from a point of view as what is in it for me, but you also give up this aspect of giving up the fruits of action, which is of course part of Karma Yoga, but that is what we call as the enjoyership. Enjoyership being that aspect where I do things and I do it for the sake of doing it. That is enjoyership. But then there is also one more, which is giving up even the aspect that I am doing it. So all this is actually part of the doership and enjoyership. So when I do this, only then can I really practice detachment. We talk about, I should not have attachment towards anything. I should not have attachment towards my grandkids. I should not have attachment to, my husband, my family, my this. But that is, we know it's not that easy thing, but it can happen when I do this Karma Sannyas Yoga and Karma Yoga. And that is what we mean by giving up attachment. So slowly when I practice this, my Vairagya becomes stronger. And further on, and when my Vairagya becomes stronger, then my discipline becomes stronger. So that is, I just wanted to put those two things, which I didn't put it last time. And it's almost like, when I'm going from Balastavat Krida Saktaha Tarunastavat, the shloka from from Bhajagovindam. When I'm a boy, when I'm a child, I'm attracted to toys, but then I give up my toys. I grow up, when I'm a youth, I no longer am attached to this very basic things. I transition, right? So we have all those aspects again in our Indian evolution, those 4 stages. But those 4 stages are also many ways to practice this Abhyasa and Vairagya. And one more very, very basic example. No, I'm not giving a gulab jamun example now, but I'm going to give an example of cakes. Okay. So here you see so many different types of cakes, yet what happens? We actually, gravitate towards a particular cake, right? You see all kinds of foam cake, etc. And if this list is not enough, I just did a simple Google search and I came across about 101 varieties of cakes, so many different types of cakes. But then what is common in all these cakes? It is nothing but flour, sugar, a little bit of water, lots of butter, maybe some amount of baking soda, right? The only difference is actually the the dressing on the cake, if you will, and maybe a little bit of some other things which is added for different these cakes. That's the only difference. So if we can just keep that in mind, that ultimately this is nothing but just one stuff, not we go for that icing all the time, and we keep going more and more just for that icing part of it. Ultimately, it's nothing but this flour, water, sugar part of it. So can I use that same kind of an analogy in the world? Can I really look at objects, situations, and people as something which is just giving me that icing, that joy from that aspect? Otherwise, everybody is just the same, So I'm only being attracted towards that icing and I go towards it. Is there a way that I can just treat everybody as nothing but flour, water thing, I know it sounds too dry as an example, but I thought that would be one way to really have that relationship with the world. And by having that relationship with the world, it's much more easy for me to get into practicing that karma yoga and karma sannyas yoga. And once I do that, I find that my main cause for mental disturbance goes away, which is that attachment and that lingering expectation of fruits of action. For everything, I have an expectation. So I need to give up that expectation. I need to give up that attachment. When I do that, that's when my meditation becomes more and more and more, deeper. And I can really stay in that meditation for a longer period of time. Otherwise, these are the only two things, attachment and expectation, which keeps on disturbing my peace of mind. So this is where we came to shloka number 36, where Krishna tells Arjuna as to why we really hesitate to go towards meditation. And the reason is, again, what Amlan pointed out, which is the horses which are untamed, which represents the senses. Here I have a different example here, which is an elephant. So it's not just, now we are talking about horses, we are talking about this huge mammoth elephant. That's how Balavat Pramadi, our mind is. And this thing that drives this elephant is actually all these desires and attachment which is there in our mind. And many times, I may know about simple desires like, desire for a coffee or desire for a cake or whatever. But I really don't know about all the unconscious desires that is there, or which is there in my subconscious mind. That is where really, which drives the this elephant so wild, right? And so that part of it is something that was talked about in shloka 36, where he says, asamshayatmana yoga dushprapeti nimatihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptum upayataha, which is really understanding that uncontrolled mind. And once I recognize that uncontrolled mind, then I can actually put solutions, which is what he's saying, upayataha, solutions can be brought in very intelligently to control the mind. So that is in shloka 36. And then in 37, now you see Arjuna asking the question about, I may be very sincere, again, Arjuna is very intelligent. He is thinking through all possibilities. Maybe, like he uses some of these quality principles, what if, that's what a lot of the quality principles do, right? Six Sigma, lean management, all this, what if this happens, then what do I do? Kind of a question, is what Arjuna is asking here. But he's also asking from a very sincere point of view, which is, okay, I'm doing all this, I'm meditating, everything, but yet something happens and I'm unable to reach that absolute perfect state. then what happens? So that is where we discussed last time the 3 shlokas about this yoga brashta. So literally the next 9 shlokas is where Lord Krishna gives some things to think about. In some sense, the aspect of reincarnation was talked about in the 2nd chapter. After that, not much was said. So here in this, you see another reason why reincarnation is so much of an, without reincarnation, we won't be able to make sense of certain things in our lives, So simple things like about the aspect of the geniuses, U Srinivas, for example. U Srinivas was a genius. I mean, you cannot explain how such a person at the age of 5 or 6 could hold that mandolin in his lap at that time. And I was there to witness that particular concert in West Marlborough to see how this genius work. And that, in some sense, you can see is where Arjuna is asking, I put so much amount of effort, but then what happens? So that is where in Shloka 37, he says, Arjuna says, unable to control himself though having faith, whose mind wanders away from yoga, not having attained, to what end does he go? So a little different question, but you can interpret this for many of our practical things too, where he says, ayatihi, somebody who is, who has probably not put in complete effort, okay? He has put some effort, but he has not put the total effort that is needed in order for him to reach that higher state. What happens to such a person? So then in Shloka 38, you see that Arjuna is not satisfied just by asking the question. He actually elaborates a little further. And here he, says, he brings in this example of this rent cloud. He says, Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtaha, Chinnat Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtaha, Kachina bramiva nashyati, apratishto mahabaho, vimudho brahmanapati. So he's kind of extending that point one step further with an example. And he says, the person has put the effort, but has not reached the state. And just like he gives this example of a rent cloud, and last time we talked about it, and some more examples were given, and we'll discuss this. What happens to such a person? That's again his question here. Is he really completely should be? Is he given up for good? Does that person even get any benefit? That's the thing. So in this example, this what we are seeing here is, many times we see this big cloud, and from this cloud, you have these small clouds which gets broken away. And I remember when I was young, at least, you could sit on your motamadi or top balcony, and you could look up and see these clouds really breaking away, and then slowly going towards another major cloud, and then forming that cloud, right? So that's what he's talking about. This is a rent cloud, is the cloud which is breaking away from a bigger cloud and then finding its way to join another cloud. But then what happens is, as it's going towards a bigger cloud, because of too much of rain, or maybe even rain, or even big winds, this cloud will not really find that the destination where it wants to go, and it may just break away and just it is disappears. So Arjuna is saying, will that person become like this rent cloud where he just disappears into nothing and all his efforts have gone into nothing? That's the aspect which he's talking about. So that he uses the word yoga brashta. Yoga brashta is the person who has put in that effort but has not reaped the benefit out of it, primarily because he has not put 100% effort. before he put that 100% of effort, something either happens to him, or maybe he got distracted from what he was doing with being on this path of meditation, and he kind of lost it. So this is where Krishna is saying, no, that is not true. He is not fallen. He is not this one. That everything still stays. Whatever punya that he gained out of doing that much amount of meditation, that still will stay with him. Okay. On a very different example, here we have this rolling stone gathers no moss. Again, not directly related, but something to think about. We say this rolling stone gathers no moss. The person is neither here nor there, but that is not exactly what it is. Basically, he's saying that no, there is some effort which does lead to whatever effort he's put in will take you there. We saw this last time, so I won't talk about that example in the interest of time as well. So then in shloka number 39, you see Arjuna giving one final sort of an argument. Earlier he wanted to know whether this person will reach that state if he dies, and then he wants to know whether, what kind of success would this person get. So slowly his confidence for Krishna increases, and he finally tells Krishna, oh Krishna, you're the only one who is going to dispel this doubt, because there is nobody else who's capable of doing it. So in other words, he's surrendering again to Krishna. We have seen that same surrender of Arjuna happening at different times. In second chapter, we saw that Ashocyanan Vashochastvam. At that time, in shloka 11 of chapter 2, he actually surrenders completely out of desperation. He is very, he just literally breaks down and he surrenders. But here you see his surrender, which is coming from accepting now Krishna as more than his friend, more than even his mentor. He says ultimately that other than you, he's convinced that only Krishna can really help him. But anyaha samshaya asya cheta nahi upapadyate. You're the only one who's capable of removing this particular doubt what I have in my mind. It also shows really how much of love he must have for Krishna. And it also shows, how Arjuna has this friend in, has this support in Krishna. And when that support is there, how easy and how comfortable a person feels in asking such questions also. So in shloka number 40, you see now Krishna giving all the answers for what Arjuna has asked so far. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Parthanaiveha Mutra, Parthanaiveha Mutra, Vinashastasya Vinashastasya vidyate, Vinashastasya vidyate, Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit, Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit, Durgatim tata gacchati, Durgatim tata gacchati. So you see, Lord Krishna starts to reassure Arjuna. So he calls him very lovingly, with two nice words here. He says, Tataha, Tataha, oh, my child, my son, Durga, that is one. And then he also says Partha, so two words for Arjuna here. And he tells him, oh, Arjuna, neither here nor in the next world. And this is what I meant by saying, when there is this aspect of reincarnation which is brought out here. He says, neither here nor in the next world, vinashaha tasya vidyate. Is there any kind of destruction for such a person? none verily who strives to do good. So ultimately, when somebody who is continuously doing something good, not harming the environment, not harming anybody, for such a person, nahi kalyana krit kaschit. For somebody who is doing kalyan, goodness, for such a person, durgatim tata gachati. So he says such a person will never ever come to any kind of distress. So in just very beautifully he says, he gives him that assurance. So now let's see in general. Now in the next two shlokas, you'll see Krishna is addressing the two type of the seekers. We saw that yoga brashta is a person who has put in effort but has been unable to reach the final goal. So there are two types. One is the reason why he has not been able to get to the goal is mainly because he still has a lot of deep-rooted desires in himself or herself. And those desires, they stay in our own psyche, if you will, as what we call this as a vasana. So those kind of vasanas, they take a lot of time to clear away. So that could be one reason, perhaps this person has not reached that ultimate goal. Or it could be a person who is, who's a very advanced karma yogi or a sannyasi and literally has everything that is needed to reach the goal. But the person couldn't make it because of possibly some, an early death which could have happened. Maybe the body just did not have the right kind of, the physical body, which is something that's always inherited. And that physical body did not have the ability for that person to attain the goal. Or maybe it could be something else which could have happened, maybe an accident, who knows, right? So this could be two different kinds. And that is why in the next two shlokas, you will see Lord Krishna addresses these two types of yoga brashtas. Okay. So in shloka 41, he says, Prapya punyakritam lokan, Prapya punyakritam lokan, Ushitva shashvati samaha, Ushitva shashvati samaha, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, Yoga Prashto Bijayate, Yoga Prashto Bijayate. So he says, Prapya Punya Kritam Lokan. So a person who puts the effort in the right direction, such a person does reach, he says, a heaven, okay? A heaven, if you want to call it a heaven in a simple way. But he says that he reaches a place where there is a gathering of the good people, good souls, having attained the world of the righteous, prapya having attained, punya kritam, punya lokan. So through his punya, he's attained that place of where good souls go. Ushitva shashvati samaha. And there, such a person will be there can be there forever. And having dwelt there for everlasting years, can be there for a long period of time. Then when the time is right, the person is then born in Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, Yoga Brashta Abhijayate. So such a person is then born in a place which was better than where he was before, because inside this place, that soul has an opportunity to even evolve further, or to finally achieve whatever it had to achieve. Is there's just maybe a little bit of a desire or anything that is there. So such a person is born in that, and you see many examples. And being here in Adi Shankara Nilayam, I can say about how Bhagwan Adi Shankara was born, in a very pious family. And the family was so pious that all he did was he was born, and within about 32 years, he was able to accomplish so much, right? So, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Abhijayate. So, such a person is born in a kind of thing. And that is what is the type 1 type of thing, what I talked about, where there might be just a little bit of a desire left, because of which the person, and because in the previous birth could not attain that, or needed just one more birth to satisfy. So in shloka number 42, then he talks about the second kind of yoga brashta. And here he talks about this aspect of, so athava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. So he gives this second example, which is such a person, or even in the family of yogis, or no, actually this is a continuation of the previous shloka, where he says the person is born, here he says is born in the family of the pure and of wealthy, this is the kind of person who probably has still some desires, but then he's born now in a family of a wealthy family, okay? But nevertheless, the family is very sattvic and everything. But again, depending upon that person's level of vasanas, if the vasanas are a lot more sattvic and a lot more purer, such a person can even be born in a family of yogis. Athava, this is saying that, or he says, athava yoginam eva, in the family of yogis, or kule bhavati dhimatam, or in the family of the wise. Okay, so he could be born in a very in a family of highly evolved souls, or in a very highly intellectual family. That also is possible. Kule bhavati dhimatam. And he says, Krishna, is very firm when he says it's very difficult to get a birth like this in this world. Etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadid janme yadish drisham. So it says, when such a person does a lot of punyas, there is just no question that a person will be born in a very, very good family and will reap the benefits. And this is 100% true. He says you don't have to doubt this at all. And we see this, of course, in all the great Mahatmas. How is it that one person stands out in the midst of so many different people, right? Like Shankaracharya, Swami Shivananda, and Ramana Maharishi. And sometimes, I don't know how many of you have heard of Jnaneshwar, Jnaneshwar Maharaj from Maharashtra, who a great Mahatma also. All of them have made the mark in the world by their pure sattvic gunas, you can say that. And that happens only because of the lot of punyam that has been done in the past. So this brings us to the shloka number 43, where he says, Tatratam buddhi sanyogam, Tatratam buddhi sanyogam, Labhate paurvadehikam, Yatate cha tato bhuyaha, Samsiddhau kuru nandana. So now he's saying, such a person, he comes to be united with the knowledge that he has acquired in his former body. So you see, all really, when we say Hinduism, there is a discussion of reincarnation. These are all the shlokas which supports that. He says, Labate paurva dehikam. Whatever such a person has acquired in his previous birth or her previous birth, and so he comes to be ultimately united with the knowledge in this present birth. And then he continues to strive more than before for perfection. Yatate chatata bhuyaha samsiddhav kuru nandana. So again, Nandana meaning joy, joy of the Kurus. He's a beautiful word for, again, Arjuna. He's referring to him very lovingly. He gives this kind of an advice to tell him that at the end of the day, nothing goes for waste. Every good thing that we do will ultimately lead somewhere. And that is the assurance that Krishna is giving Arjuna here. So we will stop at this point. I know shloka number 44 and 45 will go together. And it talks about, again, the result of all the effort that has been put in. In the case of this two type of yoga brashtas that we said, yoga brashta is a person who's putting the effort, but type 1, we said, is a person who still had just maybe a little bit of vasanas in them, because of which the person is born again and then reaps the benefit of the knowledge. Or the other type is where the person is already fully evolved, but still, due to some kind of an accident or something, could not really reach that total 100% state of perfection. So that too was talked about. So 44 and 45, we will deal with this next week. I will leave you with one beautiful thing, again, from Swami Chidananda's thing, which I saw about, for all of us who are spiritual seekers, how do we lead our life, and what is it that we sometimes tend to do? What is it that we shouldn't be doing? Which is never try to run away, never try to run away, but try to quote life and plunge and take life as it comes and learn to balance and take life as nothing but as a prasada buddhi. Because it's only when I take this prasada buddhi can I really slowly wash off all these vasanas that we talked about. And that is really the eternal law which provides for each of us that circumstance. So every situation that comes to us is something that I have to be thankful for. We tend to be thankful for when everything happens the way I want it to happen, but I don't realize that I'm actually part of the bigger picture, that sometimes things may not happen the way I want it to be, but yet I need to be able to accept it. And that is the eternal law here. And then what is to be avoided is not the world, but I have to think about changing this mind, going back to what Amlan said, the mind needs to be changed. And do I need to run away anywhere to do this? No, but I just stay wherever I'm asked to go. I stay wherever I am with the work allocated, with the duties, according to my own qualifications, according to my own mental picture, and according to my own dharma. So ultimately, doing that dharma is how I'll be serving the higher cause. So I just wanted to leave you with this particular quotes, which is again a way for evolution for us, which is that abhyasa which we talked about. So let's stop. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Let me, just
Thank you,
stop
Sunitha ji.